It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. 15 people die as a carriage on a funicular railway popular with tourists crashes in the Portuguese capital, Lisbon. At least 18 other people have been injured. Lisbon's mayor says the city is in mourning. Our other main story tonight, Rayner on the ropes. The Deputy Prime Minister faces calls to resign after admitting failing to pay enough stamp duty. In an exclusive interview, she tells our political editor she considered standing down but wants to stay on.
Well, I made a mistake based upon the advice that I relied upon, that I received at the time, and a leading expert has now said that advice was wrong.
An outcry over the arrest of comedian Graham Linehan prompts the head of the Met Police to call for a change in the law. China declares itself unstoppable as Beijing puts on a huge show of force for the world. How a serial rapist who faked his death and fled to Spain was brought to justice thanks to a tip-off to Sky News. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Hello, good evening. We begin with tonight's breaking news that at least 15 people have been killed after a carriage on a funicular railway popular with tourists crashed and derailed in Lisbon. Well, these are live pictures from the scene in the Portuguese capital. The emergency services say at least 18 people were injured when the city's Gloria funicular, which transports passengers up and down a steep hill in the city, came off the rails. Lisbon's mayor says the city is now in a state of mourning. Well, let's bring in our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins. So iconic, historic, and now a scene of tragedy, Siobhan.
Yes, absolutely horrendous scenes coming out of Lisbon this evening. As you were saying, this popular Gloria funicular, which takes people from the downtown of Lisbon up to the busy nightlife area, seems to have, one of the carriages has derailed just after 6 o'clock, so right in the middle of commuter time, and also at a time when this is extremely busy with tourists as well. Now, when you look at the pictures, you can see that one of the cars is extremely damaged. It's on its side. It's totally broken up. And for the last few hours, we've been watching the emergency services as they try to pull the injured and the dead from that wreckage. And this witness explains what she saw.
Ficou sem freio, cerca de 1,5 metros.
It fell about 1.5 meters and made a huge crash. It was packed. We stayed to help. But just as we were going to assist, we saw another tram coming downhill. The only thing we could do was turn and run towards the avenue. I looked back, and I'm sure at least one person managed to get out. They were on the pavement when the tram hit the building.
Well, really frightening scenes, as you say. At least 15 people have died, 18 people injured. We don't know the nationalities yet, although the Italian embassy has said that one of the injured is believed to be Italian. We have also got this from the British Foreign Office, who say, "We are aware of the incident in Lisbon and are in touch with the local authorities. We stand by to provide consular assistance if there are any affected British nationals." And as it stands, the mayor has now declared 3 days of mourning.
Yes, extending his heartfelt condolences to all the families and friends of the victims. Siobhan, with that update. Thank you. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is fighting for her political future tonight after admitting she failed to pay enough stamp duty on the purchase of a seaside flat. She claims she was misled about the legal position. For now, at least, she still enjoys the backing of Sir Keir Starmer. But the Conservatives say her position, which includes the role of Housing Secretary, is now untenable. Speaking exclusively to our political editor, Beth Rigby, Ms Rayner admitted wrongdoing, revealing she has referred herself to the ethics watchdog and had briefly considered resigning.
Good morning, Minister. Are you setting a good example?
Angela Rayner in Downing Street yesterday, stepping into the new political term, only to find herself today now fighting for her political life. The The Deputy Prime Minister told Sky News she underpaid stamp duty on her £800,000 seaside flat and has referred herself to the Prime Minister's ethics advisor.
I made a mistake based upon the advice that I relied upon, that I received at the time, and a leading expert has now said that advice was wrong. I'm rectifying it at the earliest opportunity. People make mistakes, but I conducted myself in trying to do the right thing, and I hope that people can see that.
In May, the Deputy Prime Minister bought a flat in Hove, but she only paid £30,000 in stamp duty when she should have paid £70,000 on this property because it was in effect deemed her second home. That's all because of this place, her family home in Greater Manchester that she shares with her disabled son and ex-husband. This home is in a trust for her teenage son to provide for him in later life. So when lawyers advised her she only needed to pay standard stamp duty on her Hove flat, well, she took that advice. That turned out to be wrong, and today the Deputy Prime Minister was forced to reveal details of her family life in an effort to clear her name.
I've been in shock, really, because I thought I'd done everything proper, and this trust was not something that I set up. It's not my money. It's not money that I put into the trust. This is to safeguard my son's needs for the future after a very devastating, injury and situation that came about for him. And even just saying that now, I feel that I'm giving away information about my son that is his information. It's not for me to broadcast the challenges that my 17-year-old child has as he's navigating into adulthood.
Miss Rayner now finds herself facing accusations of being a tax dodger, having been very unforgiving of her political opponents in the past.
If this isn't a breach of the ministerial code, surely the code itself is wrong, Mr. Speaker.
Did you think about just packing it in rather than having to do this now?
I spoke to my family about it. I spoke to my ex-husband, who has been an incredibly supportive person.
You presumably have spoken to Keir Starmer about this. Do you have his full backing?
Well, Keir knows the circumstances, and he obviously knows about the challenges that my son has faced.
But her explanation has done little to satisfy her critics who can smell blood.
I remember when the Prime Minister said that tax evasion is a criminal offence and should be treated as all other fraud. If he had a backbone, he would sack her.
But this leader more sympathetic to his rival's predicament.
As a parent of a disabled child, I think we should all reflect on the challenges that she has been through. We all worry about what's going to happen to our children when we've died. And I can see that in what Angela Rayner has said today.
There's no doubt tonight that Angela Rayner is a politician fighting for her political life, and she knows it. Because for all of the explanations around her complicated family life, at the heart of this matter is a Deputy Prime Minister and the Housing Minister who has underpaid on property tax. And this is from a politician calling for big tax rises from the wealthy to fund the economy, and who in the past has been highly critical of those politicians that have also come under fire in this sort of way. So this is politically fraught. It's reputationally extremely damaging for her. And while she's come out fighting, she knows that her political survival is now beyond her control. The PM and Cabinet colleagues have so far rallied around Angela Rayner, but her fate now lies in the hands of the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, who's investigating the affair. Whether she can keep her place at this table, now very much up in the air. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Westminster.
Well, our chief political correspondent, John Craig, is in Downing Street. John, some real sympathy for her personal circumstances expressed by many, but this is the Housing Secretary dodging a homes tax.
And, of course, the bombshell confession by Angela Rayner came shortly after the Chancellor announced that the budget will be on the 26th of November. A budget when, according to speculation, there could be some big changes and increases in taxes on homes and property. perhaps a stamp duty increase, perhaps all sorts of taxes on landlords and so on. And of course, she is the minister who will have to administer that if she's still in the job. Now, yes, there was sympathy from the likes of Sir Ed Davey, who has a disabled child, but some of the comments from political opponents were brutal. For example, Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, called her rotten Rayner and said that she was a tax evader and a freeloader. George Galloway said she was lowlife. There was strong backing from the Trade Union Congress General Secretary, Paul Novak, who said she was a victim of misogyny and being trying to be fought. The right-wing Tories and right-wing media, he said, were trying to force her out. Later, there was a message from Nadeem Zahawi. You may recall that 2 years ago, Angela Rayner was absolutely brutal, attacking him over his tax affairs. Well, he said, "Did you think about my children, Angela Rayner? Breaks my heart seeing anybody distressed about their children, but the hypocrisy really does hurt." Now, the big questions remaining, ones that the City Grandee, Sir Laurie Magnus, will have to try and get to the bottom of. Is it credible that she was given duff legal advice by a solicitor? There's a lot of scepticism amongst MPs about that. She was a bit vague about that. Secondly, when did she get the extra legal advice from a top KC or a top barrister which contradicted the earlier advice? Was it just in the last few days, of course, when the storm over her tax affairs has been absolutely engulfed her? So big questions that she's got to try to answer. And if, of course, it turns out that anything that she said in the interview is not actually borne out by the facts, if she can't provide substantive evidence about this duff legal advice, then she's in enormous trouble. There are plenty of MPs speculating that she's so badly damaged, her hopes of succeeding Sir Keir Starmer in number 10 are doomed already. So she's in major trouble. She will hope that she's perhaps exonerated or perhaps just given a slap on the wrist by the ethics advisor. She's got the backing of the PM for now. There was warm support from her from senior colleagues in the House of Commons, but she is in deep, deep trouble. Make no mistake.
John, in Downing Street, thank you very much indeed. And we do have a special episode of the Electoral Dysfunction podcast with Beth Rigby's full interview with Angela Rayner. That is available to listen to now on your podcast app. And a reminder too that Sky News will be hosting the immigration debate in Birmingham on Wednesday, the 10th of September, hosted by Sky's Trevor Phillips, and representatives of the main parties will attend. Scan the QR code on your screen now if you would like to be in the live audience and ask a question. Now, the head of the Metropolitan Police says officers are being put in an impossible situation over the enforcement of rules about online hate speech. Smart Rowley has called for a change in the law after a backlash against the arrest of sitcom writer Graham Linehan for social media posts about trans people. Sky's Tamara Cohen has more.
The Irish comedy writer Graham Linehan, famous for Father Ted and The Fast Show, stepped off a flight from the US on Monday to find 5 armed officers waiting for him at Heathrow Airport. This is what happened next.
You're under arrest. Holy I don't believe it. I'm under arrest.
He recorded that exchange, in which they tell him it's over 3 posts on X about transgender people and that he's arrested on suspicion of inciting violence. In one of the posts from April, he writes, "If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he's committing a violent abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls." Linehan wrote online that he was taken to hospital, where this picture was taken, and that he told police his tweet was a serious point, made with a joke and not a call to violence. The issue has angered free speech campaigners, and Keir Starmer was asked about it.
If you don't support speech you don't like, you don't support free speech.
Yeah. I've been clear throughout, we must ensure the police focus on the most serious issues and the issues that matter most. And we have a long history of free speech in this country. I'm very proud of that and I will always defend it.
The Metropolitan Police Commissioner Mark Rowley said in a lengthy statement defending the officers that they had no choice. He said, "I don't believe we should be policing toxic culture wars debates, and officers are currently in an impossible position. I have offered to provide suggestions to the Home Office on where the law and policy should be clarified." If agreed, he said we could be ready to test new approaches quickly, within a matter of weeks. Nigel Farage made hay out of it in Washington, D.C., where he was invited to address the House Judiciary Committee.
The way the British government have gone about this, frankly, is a sledgehammer to miss the nut. And we finished up with a situation where a foreigner, somebody with an Irish passport, coming into Heathrow Airport is arrested by 5 armed police. And that could be an American executive. So whichever way you look at this is huge overreach.
He raised the case there and that of Lucy Connolly, who was jailed over a tweet she posted during last summer's riots.
At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport.
How police assess alleged crimes on social media has been under the spotlight. Now, across the political spectrum, there are calls to make clear where the lines are. Tamara Cohen, Sky News, Westminster.
China has showed off its military might to the world with a parade to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Among those watching on from Tiananmen Square with China's Xi Jinping were Russia's President Vladimir Putin and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. It is the first time the 3 leaders have met in person. Our Asia correspondent Helen Ann Smith was there and sent this report.
It began with a deep hush across this historic square. A sense cannon fire was calling this country to attention. Nothing short of utter perfection would have been acceptable here. Every flex, every gesture, even their height exactly matched. Tens of thousands marched to remember a world war where this country suffered so much. But under the eye of China's leading regime, looking back is clearly not the key point. Indeed, this day was as much about this president as anything else. Greetings, comrades, he shouts. Greetings, President, the reply. This is a display of his military reforms, his iron control grip, and his vision for where China goes next.
The Chinese nation is a great people who fear no tyranny and strive for self-reliance. The great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is unstoppable. The noble cause of human peace and development will surely triumph.
And this is clearly part of that vision, not just what's on show, but who came to see it. These were the images that will most likely make history. Vladimir Putin to his right, Kim Jong-un to his left, a clear signal of a trio in sync. It is remarkable messaging about allegiance and intent for 3 leaders who don't always agree, and it did not go unnoticed by the one man they probably hoped would be watching. Please give my warmest regards to Putin and Kim, posted Trump, as you conspire against the United States of America. There is nothing subtle about a display of new military hardware. War readiness, clearly the message. But it's one that they have at least attempted to temper. One of the few soldiers they allowed us to speak to was from the Peacekeeping Brigade.
We are holding this military parade to awaken our people's desire for peace. The Chinese military is committed to world peace, and we contribute to world peace. We will firmly fulfill our obligations as a major power.
There was an obvious pride for the lucky few able to come, amongst those who fought in particular, but a tight control of the narrative too, and the story about China they're telling.
It is unusual to be able to film here, to be able to see this up so close, and everything about it is designed to shock and awe. The precision is just remarkable. And while a lot of it is directed at the domestic Chinese audience, a homage to China's rise and the vision of President Xi, be in no doubt there is a clear message for the world too. And it is a message about Chinese power, the power of its military, the power of its allegiances, and the power of its politics.
At least here, it's a message that's landing.
I feel especially proud. As Chinese, living in such a great era, we take immense pride in it.
Very proud, very proud. I'm very, very honoured. It was very good.
Peace doves marked the end of proceedings, but this will not be the end of the story. It feels a little like something has shifted this week, and it may have shifted in favour of China. Helen Ann Smith, Sky News in Beijing.
Well, the content of some of those informal discussions between Presidents Xi and Putin has emerged tonight. We now know that they were talking about organ transplants as a way of prolonging life. Have a look at this exchange, which begins with President Xi speaking. We've translated their words.
In the past, it used to be rare for someone to be older than 70. And these days, they say that at 70, one's still a child.
With the development of biotechnology, human organs can be continuously transplanted, and people can live younger and younger, and even achieve immortality.
Predictions are, this century, there's a chance of also living to 150 years old.
A serial rapist who faked his death and went on the run has been convicted after a tip-off to Sky News. James Clacker attacked two women that he'd met on dating apps in Scotland. As the police hunt to arrest him gathered pace, he vanished. A tip-off sent to Sky News enabled officers to track Clacker to Spain and bring him to justice. Our Scotland correspondent, Conor Gillis, reports.
This is where a con man would come if they hoped never to be seen again. The perfect setting for a fake death, a getaway, and the beginnings of a double life. It had the look and feel of a suicide. Feeling the heat from looming sex charges, James Clacker dumped his clothes and car here and vanished. Police warned of a dangerous man, one who should not be approached, and approached he was not.
The weather in Malaga is a lot nicer than it was back home in Glasgow, currently 28 degrees Celsius.
Flying under the radar, the rapist went on the run. The Costa del Sol his bolt hole. Creating a fake identity, a fraudulent new life here in Nerja.
We have more than 30 nationalities. We are 30% of the people living here are foreign people, especially British people from the UK. This is the best place to be. No one knows you.
The perfect place then for someone to hide.
Here, I can say that we live near a paradise. If you have committed some criminals, you can live here and nobody knows you.
And disappear he did.
I was given a tip-off that led us to this apartment complex for residents on the outskirts of town. And it's interesting because we have learned that James Clacker was working here as a gardener. But the interesting fact is they don't know who James Clacker is. They know a man under the guise of Johnny Wilson.
A fitness fanatic at this gym too, forging new relationships, a new girlfriend and new friends.
Hello. Hi, is that Matt?
Yes, speaking.
Matt, hi, it's Conor Gillis here from Sky News in the UK.
Matt was one of them. The pair were close. He didn't want to be on camera.
He was really nice, actually, I have to say. He was very charming. Like I say, I became quite good friends with him. Didn't realise I was going to go out hiking with him, you know, he invited me around to his house to eat and everything. He used to send me pictures of him up a mountain, and he would always be facing away from the camera, so he'd never show his face. Yeah, I was completely shocked. I was stunned, completely shocked, you know. I just couldn't believe it. You know, just being fooled like that by someone. It wasn't just me, it fooled a lot of other people here in Spain as well.
In these parts, he was a familiar face among many, living here undetected for almost 2 years.
Do you know this man? You think he was... Police back in the UK had drawn a blank. That was until an anonymous tip-off to Sky News from holidaymakers here in the town of Nerja. They talked of meeting a man by the name of Johnny Wilson. He matched the description. There were 3 encounters over the space of almost a year. And with that, the international manhunt ended right here.
Undercover police working with British authorities pounced on their man, the same location he'd been leading yoga classes. Arrested, detained and extradited to face Scottish justice. He lured his victims after meeting them on Tinder, a dating life that ended in sexual violence.
People were stung and surprised. This happened in their community, our local community. We don't have that very much here at all, I have to say. It's a very nice, safe, good area of Spain to be in. I mean, it's nice to live here. We don't really have that very often, well, at all. That's the first time I've heard of it, anyway.
And so Johnny Wilson was no more. Clacker back from the dead, the Spanish double life over. In a case of delayed justice, he desperately tried to dodge. Connor Gillis, Sky News, in Nerja on the Costa del Sol.
The Governor of the Bank of England has warned that there's considerably more doubt over the prospects for further interest rate cuts this year. Andrew Bailey told MPs that inflation risks have gone up and he's concerned about weakness in the jobs market.
Although, we've taken a further step, and although I think that the path, will continue to be downwards gradually over time because policy is still restrictive, there is now considerably more doubt about exactly when and how quickly we can make those further steps. That's the message I wanted to get across.
2 women have been arrested following an incident which occurred while Sky News was filming an interview with a businessman in Nuneaton about tensions in the community over asylum seekers. Warwickshire Police said both women were arrested on suspicion of a public order offence, and one of them was also arrested on suspicion of racially aggravated common assault. The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has warned the American military could blow up more drug cartel vehicles after a US missile strike destroyed a Venezuelan boat suspected of carrying drugs, killing 11 people. He claimed the vessel was probably heading to the Caribbean and posed an immediate threat to the US and said similar operations will happen again. Victims of Jeffrey Epstein have called for the release of more documents relating to the sex offender and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Hundreds of people gathered outside the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., calling for more transparency around the files. A so-called missing minute of CCTV footage, a crucial piece of video evidence, has been found, contradicting claims by US Attorney General Pam Bondi, who previously said it had been recorded over. Our US correspondent, James Matthews, reports.
We're here for you. We love you. After meeting Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, it felt like someone shut off the lights to my soul.
We were groomed, we were manipulated, and we were taken advantage of.
We want to be heard.
In this story, they say the survivors are often forgotten.
We know the names.
Not here.
Many of us were abused by them.
No one's invested in a release of the Epstein files, quite like the woman who knew him.
It's Teresa J. Helm,
who suffered at the hands of the sex trafficker and accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell.
It was a whole operation. Everyone knew what they were doing. Everyone had their role to play. They passed along women and children like human batons from one person to the next up the chain till they're assaulted. Some are on repeat cycles of that.
Why is it important that your voice is heard today?
Because they're trying to bury us. They've been trying to bury us for 20 years, and you just waited for Virginia Giuffre to pass away to move Ghislaine Maxwell to a summer camp.
What do you say to Donald Trump today?
Release the Epstein files. It's simple.
The voice of the survivors here can only reinforce the effort over there on Capitol Hill to trigger the release of the Epstein files. Politicians across the aisle are pushing legislation to lean on the Department of Justice for a full publication of every name and every detail. Marjorie, is your stance on this a problem for Donald Trump? Trump's problem is his MAGA base wants the files released. Loyalists like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who cry cover-up.
The truth needs to come out, and the government holds the truth.
Donald Trump was welcoming the Polish president to the White House down the road. The spirit of Epstein was present here too. Trump was asked about an affair that features a man he once counted as a friend.
We're having the most successful 8 months of any president ever. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
For Epstein survivors, the release of the files is the end game. How the game ends for Donald Trump would be the question to follow. James Matthews, Sky News in Washington.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by the Daily Mirror columnist, Kevin Maguire, and the former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Baroness Foster. Lovely to see both of you. So, among the stories we will be discussing, this on the front page of The Guardian. Its headline, Rayner in peril after admitting she underpaid stamp duty on her flat. Back with that and plenty more, of course, after this.